Hi, welcome to the 7th episode of It Wasn't Me, a true crime podcast where we talk about murders that intrigue us. I'm Mercedes.
And I am Cindy. In this week's episode, we will discuss the beating death of a pro surfer by a gang of self-professed bandits.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to last week's episode where we discussed the stalking and murder of a 26-year-old office worker on her lunch break in Plainsboro, New Jersey. Our podcast is not recommended for children. This will be a little graphic and we will use offensive language, so if you have kids, put them away for a while and join us for a murder.
For more information and links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages, visit our website at itwasn'tmetruecrime.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. And please give us a 5-star rating. While you're there, leave us a comment telling us which murder intrigues you. And if you like our show, please consider supporting us through patreon.com/itwasn'tmepod. We appreciate our Patreon supporters so much.
So, Cindy, how's it going? I see you have on your drinking shirt.
Yes, I have my day drinking shirt on. It's my favorite shirt.
Well, we'll be maybe sharing a glass of wine here soon, right?
Yes, I think that sometimes that makes the world go round.
It helps us get through some of the graphic details, huh?
Yes, yeah. Most definitely. And yeah. Okay.
Well, you know my MO. So I don't like to do podcasts that have already been done. I want to be, new, unique. And so I decided I'm going to put in another random keyword search. I want to do a different region of the country. So I put in California surfer murder. And believe it or not, I got a few hits. But one really drew my interest. It was a murder of a pro surfer in La Jolla, California. So this week we are going to reveal the murder of Emery Kauanui Jr., otherwise known as the Flying Hawaiian, and Junior Boy, and he was murdered by the Bird Rock Bandits. So as far as I know, I couldn't find a podcast on Emery, but I did find that Dateline NBC had aired an episode in 2010. When I went to listen to it, though, it wouldn't come up. So I don't know if it's archived or if I have to pay for it, which I wasn't going to do. But I did find a transcript that I'm going to be referring to for some of the information. But if anybody out there can find information on or at least view this, let me know how you did it. I'd love to know.
I have a question about bandits.
Yes. What is
like,
that?
How do you classify yourself as a bandit?
Yeah, I don't know. When I think of bandits, I think of like the Old West and bandanas.
Like a bandana,
yeah. Like, what was that Burt Reynolds movie? I know it's like I'm aging myself here, but something about bandits. Oh wait, something on the. Oh, gosh, what was the name of that movie? My husband would know.
Oh, I don't know. My husband would know too.
Yeah. Whatever. Okay, so as I said, this takes place in California in La Jolla, and I decided to. I've been to La Jolla. I was there in 2016. It's a very posh, upscale neighborhood in San Diego. It's a beautiful place.
So is it a neighborhood or a city?
It's kind of like they consider it like a part of San Diego. So it has its own like.
Does it have it?
I'm not real sure how it works, but the San Diego police go to La Jolla.
Okay.
So. They
Maybe
don't have
it's
their
like
own
a
police
suburb,
department.
just a small suburb.
It just said a neighborhood is what I found. So.
Oh, okay. So their address is probably San Diego, not La Jolla.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it probably is La Jolla, but I don't know how they would, classify the difference. San Diego is humongous, and there are a lot of little areas within.
Yes, there's like Ocean Springs, and where Camp Pendleton is.
Yeah. Is Camp Pendleton there? I know that
it's near San Diego.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So my son was there. He was in the Navy.
That's that's where my husband was.
Okay. It's a beautiful place. This is the type of place you go to the beach. There are seals all over. Like the first time I've seen like wild seals outside of a zoo, just hanging out on the beach.
Yeah, that would be kind of crazy.
And you kind of like it says, beware of the seals. You're at your risk. But huge cliffs, like these waves crashing into the cliffs, and there's a park nearby. It's just a beautiful place. The town itself, like if you live there, if you're lucky, most people have a view of, the surrounding area. It's high up on a cliff. And a lot of posh little cafes and places like that.
Sounds like a nice place to live.
Yeah. But, the cheapest home I could find there, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, was just shy of $1 million.
Holy shit.
Now.
Yes, I see. I Googled it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
La Jolla is a seaside community within the city of San Diego.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know if I don't know if they would put La Jolla, California on their return address labels. I don't know. Needless to say, if you can afford to live here, you're very successful and or you're independently wealthy, because it's not for the common middle class person. Now, when I was there, we actually drove around the neighborhood a little bit to get back to the interstate. And you know, like, it was right when the kids were getting out. We passed by the high school. I mean, you know, it's just like the typical healthy, wealthy California look on a lot of these kids. It's kind of interesting. Now there's a huge surfing population there because there's a lot of decent surfing there. But there's one local beach called the Wind and Sea that, according to the New York Times, is one of the clickiest, most protected beaches in the area. Like, it's locals only, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Not because of the sea life, but because of the...
Right, because of the surf, and it's just their beach, right?
Okay. Which, where we live, people try to privatize the beach.
Right.
And say, this is private property, you can't come on, you know.
Right. It's definitely not a strictly La Jolla thing. It's any beach place. And I actually looked at, like, surfer gangs and during this, and I know one of the gangs that stood out to me that has a very violent reputation is from Hawaii, on the North Shore, which is like has the best surfing. And
yes,
it was revealed through like contests and surfer magazines. So all these people from all over the world were flocking to North Shore, and the locals are like, dudes, this is our place. So, you know, once the police got involved, it really gave a bad reputation for local surfing communities. And same with La Jolla. Now, needless to say, many of the guys that are in these gangs are, you know, your teen to 20, 30-somethings, and they're usually quick to fight, quick to anger at the slightest provocation. So, in La Jolla, one of the groups that were most notorious for starting trouble called themselves the Bird Rock Bandits. And most people who knew them, if they saw them coming, they, like, dodged. You know, they, like, would turn the corner or leave. Try not to make eye contact. These guys were, you know, bullies, maybe?
And territorial.
Yeah. Well, and these guys weren't surfers either. They were more like football jocks.
Which is kind of weird,
Yeah.
but I guess, you know, well, and I think that wherever you're from, there's like that place, especially when you're in high school, because this is quite high school behavior.
Yeah.
Meet me at the back of such and such neighborhood.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
because I know
Absolutely.
where we live, there's a couple of places that would
Right.
say, you meet me in the back of College Point,
Right.
man.
Right.
That type of thing.
Now, this group called themselves the Bird Rock Bandits, and I looked up Bird Rock Bandits. Like, I don't know where they got bandits from, but Bird Rock, according to a La Jolla travel site, is a neighborhood, a unique neighborhood in a much-loved pocket of the city nestled on the south side of town, filled with hidden ocean lookout points, great cafes, and highly acclaimed schools. So it is just an area of La Jolla, but I also read it's kind of like kind of a little bit more of the rundown area, if there is such a thing in La Jolla.
Okay.
You know?
So they're from the other side of the tracks.
Of La Jolla.
Of La Jolla.
Right.
So they probably still have more money than us.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
you know, they're,
Right.
you know, they might not be.
Now, the Bird Rock Bandits grew up together. Like, they played football. They hung out in the summer times. They pretty much terrorized La Jolla beaches. And they weren't big surfers. They were more like, let's go to the beach and get drunk, get rowdy, start fights. One person said that the Bird Rock Bandits were all a bunch of worthless punks. They're a blight on an otherwise awesome beach during the summer. A bunch of young drunk morons trying to ruin other people's good times. Oh, coffee's done.
Coffee's ready.
Now, the Bird Rock Bandits was made up of 5 young men: Eric House, Hank Hendricks, Matt Yankee, Orlando Orsuna, and Seth Cravens. And I'll be talking about these guys throughout. And the Wednesday before Memorial Weekend in 2007, which is, you know, Memorial Weekend's a huge party time, any beach community.
Yeah.
These guys were ready to party. And Hank Hendricks was the only one of the 5 who got out of town. He actually was a backup quarterback for the University of New Hampshire, and he was in town from college. So the guys had planned to go out. Now, they had been banned a couple weeks before from one of the local places called the Shack Bar and Grill or something like that. And so they needed to go someplace where there was a lax ID check because Eric House was only 20. He wasn't old enough to drink.
But the rest of them were.
The rest of them were, yes. They decided to go to a place called the Brew House Pub, which had a lax ID checking policy, but also that night there was a huge promotional event for Surfer. The radio station was there. there was a DJ. It was just the happening place to be that night. Enter the Flying Hawaiian. Emery Kauanui Jr. moved to La Jolla when he was about 12 years old, right around 11 or 12. He grew up in Hawaii. He, at the young age, was a surfer at a very young age, like 2 or 3 years old. When he started walking, he was on a surfboard. Now, in 1992, a Category 4 hurricane hit Hawaii, Hurricane Iniki, and they lost everything. The mother had just divorced her husband, Emery Kauanui Sr. They had just gotten divorced. She was a single mom with 3 boys, and they lost everything, like everything. We know what that's like, right? So with just the clothes that they had on their back and getting help from like charity agencies, they got plane tickets to go to San Diego. And she had family there. She was from California. So they moved to San Diego. She ends up renting a place and gets an SBA loan. And she was a model before, and so that's really what she knew. So she decided to open up her own modeling agency, and she rented a space above La Jolla Surf Shop. Now, if you think about 1992 and you think about fashion magazines, I think of like Kate Moss and those like skinny, heroin ravaged looks. But Cindy Kauanui, the mom, her look was different. She went for the healthy surfer look. Okay. The California, healthy surfer look, and it took off quickly. She got contracts from Guess, Versace, Roxy, a lot of other surfing brands.
Wow, so awesome.
She hit the mother lode quite early on. In the meantime, her middle son, Emery, was on his own way to huge things. Like, he was a tall, lanky island kid. He earned the nickname the Flying Hawaiian because of the moves that he made. He took a lot of risks on these big, huge waves, and he got dubbed the Flying Hawaiian. People saw he had great potential, so he started getting a lot of sponsors and from surf shops and board shapers, and even the young. I mean, everybody loved him. Like, they all wanted to be like him, even the little grommets. So
what's a grommet?
It's like a little wannabe surfer kid.
So that would be
we used to use that
like the people who surf here.
Yeah, little kids are grommets. Like
grommets,
young,
okay.
The young kids who hang out.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Little grommets. So
I've never heard that term before.
You haven't?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I used to be a grommet.
Oh.
Okay. Now, his mom said that when they first came to Windansea. Okay, so let me just back up for a minute, because Emery was what they call goofy-footed. Like, he led with his left foot on the back of the board. And it's kind of like, if you're left-handed, they say that you lead with whatever hand you use, you lead with that foot.
You're dominant.
Yes.
Okay.
So not many people led with that foot. So he was able to get on like the left side of this Windansea break, which was a big thing.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons why he was seen as so risky, because the way that it broke that way, like a lot of people were afraid.
The wave?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Were afraid to get on that break. But anyway, it was hard for him to be accepted until they realized how good he was, and a lot of people did accept them as a family into the community, but still a lot of people didn't. The cliquey, oh well, my kids have been together since preschool type.
He might have been a scholarship kid type.
Yeah, maybe.
When you think of that,
exactly, but she made her own money.
Right. That's true, but she was an outsider.
Yes,
so they thought even though she was from that area, she's from San Diego, right? Or just California in general?
I think that she was from San Diego, but moving into La Jolla and all that, like, her kid was not fully accepted.
Right.
Now, her youngest son was, like, he grew up with this gang of kids that we're talking about.
Because he was younger when they got there. Yes. So, okay. Okay,
so a lot of people did claim him as a friend. They said that he had a big heart. He had a positive nature. He loved every minute of life, according to one of his sponsors. Is like, he never cried about anything. He had soul to give. Now, his bio on his MySpace, because we're talking about MySpace times here, right? Did you have a MySpace?
I did have a MySpace.
Okay. I never had a MySpace. Okay, so this is his bio. He wrote this. He says, born and raised Kauai, and I don't think I'm saying that right, Kauai, just looking at what's good in life here in Cali and keeping the strive and determination that I need to reach my goals. There are many lessons to be learned in life, and my passion is to travel the world surfing, seeking out these lessons through the people I meet. And lost my space. And at the same time, learn how to adapt to their culture and lifestyle, leaving a good impression, not just through my surfing, but also through my personality. Now, he wasn't independently wealthy from surfing. He did work at a sushi restaurant. His mom said that after he traveled the world and had his pro surfing, he wanted to open a sushi restaurant, and he would serve his very own sushi creation, the Emery roll.
Okay. Are Hawaiians known for sushi?
Yeah, I think. Well, I know that my daughter-in-law, she's Japanese, and there are a lot of Japanese people.
There are.
And they eat a lot of sushi. So yeah.
And there's lots of Japanese in Hawaii too.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Someone else said that he was a good guy. He's funny and cocky and full of life. He dreamed of starting an inner city charity teaching kids how to surf. So a pretty good
awesome.
guy. Yeah. But not an angel. Okay. Not an angel. He loved to party and he would not back down if confronted. So he was quick to fight.
Hothead.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And that's kind of like, he kind of was raised that way with that Hawaiian way. You know, you come on my beach, I'm not going to back down.
Right.
And
and if they treated him like an outsider, he was probably already kind of defensive.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah, could be, definitely. Now, he was a surfer who took risks on and off the board, and he was aggressive and reckless on his board, but when he was drinking, he was like that on land too. For example, in 2003, he was in Orlando at the Orlando World Center in Marriott, drinking poolside with a guy named Michael Penu, and Kauanui grabbed a beer from a duffel bag without asking, just grabbed it out of this guy's duffel bag. I would say no big deal, but the guy got pissed.
Because if they were drinking together or...
Yeah, it doesn't say whether they were friends or they had just met. Well, it does say that they had just met. But I guess he just took it upon himself and took a beer out of this guy's duffel bag.
Okay.
Which I'm guessing was full of ice. I don't know. The guy, by the way, was not 21, so he was not drinking legally. Anyway, Penu asked him to put it back, and Kauanui became enraged immediately. He punched Penu in the face, and then he took the beer bottle and hurled it at him, causing a 4-inch gash above the left eye.
Oh, wow.
He was arrested, and when the cops came, the guy was still bleeding. He pled guilty to felony assault, was sentenced to 18 months probation in order to make restitution, so he had to pay fines and pay for the guy's medical bills.
So was it a felony because it was a weapon, essentially?
A felony assault, I'm guessing. Yeah, I mean, he punched the guy and
hit him with an object.
Right.
Okay.
Now, he ended up going back to San Diego. He did not learn his lesson there because within a year, he was arrested again because he violently grabbed another surfer by the throat, like twice. And he was arrested. He pled guilty to misdemeanor battery. That case had barely been resolved when Florida issued an arrest warrant accusing Kauanui of violating probation because he failed to pay his fines.
Oh, they will do that to you?
Yes, they will.
I don't know from personal experience, but...
Okay.
You know,
they will. I think any state would do that.
Yes.
So he's arrested in San Diego, awaiting extradition for nearly a month. And his mom's like, I have the money to bail him out. I have the money to bail him out easily. His fines were small, but she said he was out of control. And so she decided that with all the drinking and fighting, that she's not going to bail him out. She's not. So she let him sit in jail. She said it was his time to grow, his time to change. And it was very hard as a mom. As you know, it would be very difficult to let your kids sit in jail.
Yes. But at some point, they have to learn their lesson.
That's right. And he's 24 at this time. 23 or 24 when this is occurring. Okay. Now, he might have been a little younger. I can't remember when this occurred, but he was in his 20s. Mm-hmm. She said that his experience was absolutely a turning point for her son because he vowed to be more responsible and ease back on his partying. So she felt confident at this time to go to Hawaii. He lived with his mom, and she had some business to do in Hawaii. She's like, oh, well, he's better now. He's going to make responsible choices. No big deal. So she leaves, no problem.
As she should be allowed to do.
Right. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So now Emery had a girlfriend, on and off girlfriend. He met her when he was 17 and she was 14, and they had been dating on and off. I know. Doesn't that seem rather young for her?
Not in my house.
Nope. Okay, so
JB would not have that. No.
Nope.
Oh gosh, no.
It seems a huge difference. Like she's 14, he's 17.
Yeah, but okay, so let's say she's a freshman in high school and he's a junior.
Yeah.
It happens.
So on that night, and I can't find, I'm finding conflicting information. Like some say that it was his girlfriend. Some say they were on and off again. At this point, they were off. But whatever the case, they had talked on the phone and decided to meet up at the Brew House Pub for that event. She had to work that night, so she didn't get there until about 11:30 p.m. And when she got there, he was already kind of buzzed, but he was in a good mood. He was having fun.
He was just trying to have a relaxing.
Yeah. And he's hanging out with friends. The bar is packed. There's a DJ. It's jamming, and they were hanging out with some of their friends. And then the Bird Rock Bandits enter the bar.
Okay. Great. I bet the whole
And they were wasted.
Everything changed.
Yeah. And they were wasted. And she knew it. And she's thinking to herself, yeah, this can't be good. But,
because we all know people like that. When they show up, you're like, oh, shit.
Yes, that's right.
Time to go.
Yeah. And she knew immediately, here comes trouble. She knew that she'd known these guys for years. She did greet them because, she went to high school with them. They're all around the same age. But I do want to say that they were captured. There was a videographer there. There's this big event.
Yeah, there was promotion going on.
And the self-proclaimed bandits kept crowding around this videographer. And the guy's like, they were getting in my face. They were wound up. He's like, it was very uncomfortable.
I bet they were obnoxious as hell.
Yeah. And he said that the only way to get rid of them was to stop filming and walk away. But before he stopped filming, Seth Cravens, the leader of the so-called Bird Rock Bandit, puts his face right up into the lens. He's leaning into the lens going, yeah, we're the Bird Rock Bandits. It's all about the BRB. And he's doing gang signs.
What a bunch of fucking idiots.
I know, right? And then right after that, one of the other guys, Matthew Yankee, comes into the camera, and so does Eric House, and they're all doing their gang sign or whatever.
Gang
BRB.
Sign? Really?
Yeah, they have this, I don't even know what it is.
BRB, be right back?
They do some sort of B, I know, right?
Oh, God.
Right? Okay, so...
Dumbasses.
Yeah. Anyway, they're dancing near their table on Jenny and Emery are dancing. This is a packed dance floor, and they're by their table, and they're just kind of dancing there. And he's holding his beer while he's dancing. Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time. Well, you don't want to put your drink down. You might get drugged or something.
You might get some,
roofied.
Right? Anyway,
those jackasses are probably the ones that would roofie somebody.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I could be wrong.
No,
that's alleged. But
that's kind of like the type, isn't it? Of course.
It's a stereotype, yes. Good or bad, it happens.
All right, so he's dancing, and some of his beer sloshes out of his cup onto Eric's house. It kind of gets Eric's shirt wet, and he gets super pissy. He's like, you did that on purpose. And Jenny said that Emery said, dude, it's fine, look. And he sloshed some beer on his own shirt. She said it wasn't intentional. She said it was an accident. But Eric threatened to kick Emery's ass. It's like, dude, you're jealous, whatever. You're jealous. I'm going to kick your ass. Well, Emery, we already know, he's not one to back down.
He's not having that.
So he bows up at Eric. So this got the attention of the other members of the Bird Rock Bandits, and they're egging Eric on. Dude, you can kick his ass. So they're egging it on. Now, at this time, a bouncer stops by. He's like, dude, cut it out. Your friends, cut it out. And so they stop. But about 15 minutes later, it starts again. And the bouncer comes, and it's like, that's it. Kauanui, you're out. And everybody's like, well, why are you throwing this guy out? Okay. Well, the bouncer later reported that there was a reason, because he asked Kauanui to leave first because he's worried the others would wait for him in the parking lot if they were forced to leave first. And for good reason we're going to get to later.
Oh.
So they made Kauanui leave since it was one of him, told Jenny, take him home.
That was very, insightful of that person.
Yes.
I mean.
It was. I'm going to tell you why later.
Okay.
So, Jenny drove Junior Boy in his car because he was in no shape to drive. He couldn't drive, and he's all...
And Junior Boy is Emery, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. His friends call him Junior Boy. I mean, his mom, I know, and his brother call him Junior Boy. So, sometimes I'll... Junior Boy, Emery, flying Hawaiian.
Okay.
He's pissed.
Oh, I bet he's
She's doing her
livid.
best to calm him down. She gets him home. She gets him inside. She's like, look, I've got to go get my car because I parked illegally.
I bet irritated. That's not a word.
She might be irritated. Whatever the hell that means.
Hey, this is Cindy.
Irritated
And this is Mercedes from It Wasn't Me, a true crime podcast. And we're here to tell you about a free way to make a podcast using Anchor.
There are creation tools that allow you to record your podcast right from your phone or computer. This is a great option for new podcasters.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more.
You can make money through your podcast even if your only listener is your mama.
It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place.
Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And don't forget to listen to It Wasn't Me,
A true crime
She runs
podcast.
inside, tells her friends, Emery's going to get jumped, and then she runs back out to her car and drives
Welcome to the
Emery's
6th
mom's
episode
house.
of It Wasn't Me,
She
a true
calls
crime
911
podcast,
along the way,
where we
but she
talk
knows
about
it
murders
can't be
that
good
intrigue us. I am
Right, 'cause
Cindy.
they
And I'm Mercedes.
sound like they
Thanks
have done
for
this
joining
before.
us. This week, we're going to
And
explore the stalking and murder of
they
26-year-old office
mean
worker
what they
on
say
her
and
lunch break
say what
in
they mean,
Plainsboro, New
apparently.
Jersey.
And they're
Thank you for
bullies,
listening
right?
to last week's episode where we examined the rampage of
in the meantime, while they're driving
who
to
murdered his
Kauanui's
father
house,
and then
there's a cell
kidnapped,
phone
mutilated,
conversation
and
between
murdered
Eric
the Mother
House and
Teresa
Kauanui's.
of
So
Harris County, Georgia.
Emery knew
Our
that they were
podcast
coming.
is
So
not
he
recommended
bursts
for
out the
children.
doors, taking his shirt
This
off as he's coming out the door.
will be a little
as they're
graphic,
pulling up.
and we may
and then
use offensive
there's
language.
about 3
So if
minutes
you have kids,
of
put them away for a while
violence.
and join us for
So
a
there's
murder.
a big, huge fight.
And for more
between
information and links to our
Emery and Eric
Facebook,
House
Instagram, and Twitter
and
pages,
Kauanui
visit our
had
website
gotten the
at
best of him for a minute
itwasn'tmetruecrime.com.
because Eric House
Subscribe
lost it
to our podcast on your favorite platform, and please give us a 5-star
When Jenny
rating.
rolled up,
While you're there,
she
leave
saw
a comment
Eric
telling us
straddling
which murder
Kauanui,
intrigued you.
like beating
And
him
please,
in the
if you
face.
like
And
our
so she
show,
runs
consider
over,
supporting us through
and she starts kicking and punching House, and then
patreon.com/itwasn'tmepod.
the other
We
guy,
appreciate our
Hank
Patreon
Hendrickson,
supporters
or
so
Hendricks,
much.
pulls her off of him. It looks like it's a bunch of people fighting.
Right.
So there are a lot of neighbors watching. There are other witnesses that are there, and some of the neighbors said that there were as many as 4 young men pounding Kauanui with feet and fists.
And the neighbors weren't trying to break it up or do anything
Well, the
about
neighbors
it.
were yelling, but they were not going down there. And some of the other people
girl,
had
how you
driven up
doing?
after she said, "Oh,
Hey.
he's gonna get jumped."
I'm so glad we
Whatever
can
the
meet
case,
again.
it
How
was
have you been all
over. And
week?
Kauanui managed
I've been
to
pretty
stand up.
well,
By the way,
thank
he
you.
had
How have you been?
It has been a crazy,
Blood alcohol,
crazy
0.17,
week. I got to pet wolves this week, and
He ends up
I dressed
standing
up
up,
as
and Eric
Persephone,
House
the goddess
is
of
looking
the
for his tooth.
underworld.
So
So
he's calling
it's
on the
been
ground looking for his
fantastic.
tooth. And he stands up, and
you
he's kind of
are
like in the street. There's a
The
curve
goddess,
there.
maybe not of the
And
The dark
Seth
arts. at
Cravens
least.
walks
Yeah, oh,
up,
yeah.
and Emery's like, "Dude,
So
come to my house and do
anyway,
this."
what's our
And then
story
next
this
thing
week?
Well, I'm going
that
to tell you the story of
happens
Caroline
is that
Byington,
Seth
who was a
Cravens,
26-year-old
who's taller than Kauanui and outweighs him by
young
60
professional.
pounds.
Wow.
Sucker
Caroline or
punched him from
Caroline?
the curb. Okay.
Carolyn.
Hit
Did I
him
say
with his
Caroline?
left. He's a right-handed
It's your
guy.
southern roots. Come
Yeah.
on,
Well,
girl.
my
Caroline.
aunt, my aunt's name is Carolyn, so I
But he
should
hit him so
know.
hard
sorry,
that he
Carolyn
flew
who?
back. His
Carolyn
head was like a bobblehead, and his head
Byington.
hit the concrete first.
She was 26 years old when she was.
Well, it doesn't matter how
tragically
hard you hit
murdered
them if they hit
and
their head on the
taken
concrete and
from
Right.
this world.
there's damage. Then
She is
it
a
doesn't
2011
matter.
graduate from high school.
It was
and a
instant blood. Like, they could
2015
hear the
graduate of
crack
college. She
of
was
his
a
head
double
as he
major,
hit the ground.
very
So
ambitious.
he was
She
bleeding
studied
instantly.
abroad.
At this
You
point,
know,
they start seeing the blood.
Had her
All the
life
guys except
ahead
for
of her.
Eric House, who's still looking
Just
for
a
his tooth,
beautiful
take off.
young girl,
The police arrive. They
smart,
found,
intelligent,
They find
whole
House.
world
I still
ahead
don't
of
know if
her.
he has
is
Yes.
what I'm hearing.
And not that it
swallowed it.
matters
What
that
did you do
she
with your
was
tooth? You found
beautiful and murdered, but she
They don't
absolutely
just put it back
was
in.
beautiful.
I don't think so.
And it
Well, he's
sounds
still
like
there,
from
and
her
they end
friend's
up arresting
account, from
him.
her obituary, where
And
people posted
maybe he
to
already
the
had a fake
online
tooth and he was trying to
obituary,
find his
she was
implant.
absolutely loved
sorry,
and adored.
I don't know.
She was a
Eric
volunteer.
House
She
is
was a
arrested.
part
The other
of
guys
the
get
junior
away.
league.
They take
And anyone who knows anything about the
Kauanui
junior
to,
league and whatever
UC San Diego
state,
Medical Center,
county,
where he's
wherever
treated
you're
for
from,
bleeding in
they
the
are
brain, facial
volunteers,
fractures, multiple
essentially.
contusions.
They're
And he was
very
alert. He was
beautiful
talking.
women.
Now,
Wow.
the next,
amazing.
the next morning,
So,
as word spread about
so
the
in
fight,
2016, she was
these guys
hired
were calling their
at
friends, like,
in-
we're so
Engine
scared.
US.
You know, he's hurt really bad. His head. It's not our fault.
I did not look at
And
what exactly
Yeah, 5
Engine
against
US
1.
is.
No,
Yeah,
it's not your
and
fault.
they
Is that
insisted,
whatever?
we never
Princeton,
meant to hurt
New
him.
Jersey.
Princeton, New
Okay.
Jersey. Is that
Now,
where Princeton,
his
New
mom,
Jersey is?
Cindy Kauanui, gets a call from the neighbor the next morning. And the neighbor's like, look, your son was in the hospital. There's a big fight outside your house. So she gets on a plane.
So
and comes
anyway,
back to California.
Carolyn was loved and
she goes straight to the
adored
hospital.
by
I
her
bet
family,
the
her
guilt.
friends, her
I bet she just
community,
feels like if I
and
wouldn't have
such.
never
So why the
left,
hell would
You know what?
anybody want to murder her?
She does say that,
What
but she also
happened?
says that he made a bad
Well,
choice by
as
leaving
the
house
story
that night.
goes,
He made a bad,
Kenneth
she said it
Sale
was
was
a
a
bad
husband,
decision
a
for him.
father,
Now, she said
a
that
college
when
graduate,
she visited
was
him
a
at the
staff
hospital,
assistant,
he was in
staff
conspiracy.
assistant,
He was
excuse me,
talking,
a staff
he was
accountant at
tired,
Engine
but
US as
he
well.
seemed normal. His
So he
face
kind
didn't
of seemed
seem
like
too
he was
damaged,
young.
but
Also,
all
he
the
seemed to
damage was
have
in
his
the back
life
his head, which
ahead
you
of
can see.
him.
She ends up
So
going
what
to the
happened?
cafeteria
Well,
and she's seething.
he might have
She
had
is
a little
pissed.
infatuation.
Her son's about to go into surgery to release the
little
swelling in his
A little
brain.
bit.
His brain's swelling.
So
And she decides she's going to call Craven's
Sale
parents.
went to lunch one
So
afternoon.
she gets the number. for
And he
information.
actually
I mean, can you
had-
still call 411.
I think so.
requested
I don't
an
know.
extended lunch
So she
already.
calling them
She
all?
calls the mom
So
and
he
she says,
requested
my
an
son's been
extended
badly
lunch.
beaten and your son did it.
So it's just
He might
some
not
random
live.
day.
And she said the mom's response was,
an
oh,
extended
okay.
lunch from.
She's like, I don't know if she was in
Like, he
shock.
actually asked
She's
for an
used to
extended lunch
hearing this
beforehand.
information. Her son is like
According to
beating
court
up on
documents
kids. I don't
and
know, but,
media sources, it says he
now
had an extended
Craven's
lunch on
is
that
worried.
day,
Like,
June
everybody's
10th,
really worried
2019.
because
Again, this
Kauanui
is a
in
very
surgery,
recent
things were
murder.
not looking good.
It sounds like you should
It
be
happened
worried.
this year.
But
There
so,
is that he
because
hasn't
of
been to
their-
court yet.
what
He's been
you've
indicted,
outlined
but he
of
hasn't
their
been to court
behavior,
yet.
It seems like this is not the first time they've been in a
Yes.
fight.
Even 6 months
So
ago.
Not
not
even
even the first time
Yes.
mommy's gotten a call.
All right,
Your
so
son beat
here's
up
the deal.
so and so.
He went to lunch at
Yes, it's interesting
approximately
you say that. We'll
at the
get
same
to
time as Carolyn did.
Carolyn
went to lunch and always seemed to go to her home. She lived within a few miles from her employment, and she just went home every day
You know,
to eat
people are really
lunch. Her
pissed
neighbors
off. There's a lot of
consistently
fury on
saw
the
her at the
Is the
same
house guy
time
still in
every day,
jail?
so she's a creature of
Yes.
habit.
At this
Were
time.
they work
So 4
friends?
days
Did they
after
ever
the
eat
fight,
lunch
Emery
together,
Kauanui is
or
pronounced dead.
Nope,
anything?
there
He
is
says-
Did he die in
absolutely
surgery, or-
zero
No, he did
evidence
not
of
die in
that
surgery.
I was
He went
able
through
to find,
surgery,
and
but
I
he was
and I
not getting
looked.
better. So he
There were
was
no
pronounced brain
text
dead.
communications, no phone calls, no
just died.
emails, nothing.
Now
No one
this
ever
sent
saw
me
them
with shock
together.
and
Nobody
rage
ever
through
said,
the
"Oh yeah,"
and
they
the
would,
whole
like,
surfing
split
community of San
black,
Diego.
No,
People
nothing,
were
nothing at
pissed.
all.
And then
So,
detectives show up.
You
at
ask
Creighton's
yourself,
door.
what the hell happened?
And the
Well,
dad
knock,
said,
Carolyn
the
went
dad
to
said,
lunch,
"Come on in. We
and
were
she never
expecting
returned.
you."
On June
Now, let's
10th,
talk about the dad for a
2019,
minute,
she never returned back from
because
lunch,
dad
which was
arrested and
very much
charged with Ponzi scheme
uncharacteristic. So her
in
employee,
Seth's
her
middle
co-workers,
school
her fellow
years.
employees
So he ended up
called
going to
police.
prison.
I'm assuming they called
And
police
this
for
was
a well
really
check.
when, you
A
know, there
welfare
were more
check
fights
after
coming out of
they've
the kid.
called. They probably even went to her house. Maybe they didn't have
He
a
said
key,
that
so they
Seth is
didn't,
just
you know,
sick
bum
about
rush
this.
the
He really
door or
didn't think
knock
he
it
heard that
down.
bad, but, you know, this is
So
a
around
pattern
6
of
p.m. on
behavior
June
this kid.
10th,
So yeah.
police were called to the apartment complex
so
where
now
she
all
lived.
the Bird Rock Bandits are
And they
in
found
jail.
her
They arrest all of them except
body.
for Hank,
Okay,
Where-
so hold on
who
just a
had flown back to New Hampshire.
Alright.
So he got his
Because-
ass out of Dodge. He got him on a
Yes.
plane and he went
Now,
back to school.
Yes,
She
and
doesn't
his
come
attorney,
back. She
and
leaves for
we're
lunch
going to
break.
get back
She
to
doesn't
that
come back.
because he's saying that he
Correct.
got
And you
permission.
know that people are like calling, texting
we'll get
her,
back to
going,
that.
you know, where
Well, if they
are
hadn't
you? Why aren't you coming
Questioned
back?
him yet.
They,
Then,
he
you're
actually,
saying that
before he
perhaps
flew back,
people
went
went
to the
to her
police
house
station.
to
Okay.
And,
Yes.
and the police said,
And
right
I can
now,
tell you
it's-
from
you're
experience
it's fine.
that if you accidentally
Meanwhile, after
don't go to work one
Emery
day.
dies,
Or actually don't come back from work.
Don't come back for lunch.
organized what is
No,
called
and what I'm saying is,
so this
is
in Hawaii.
you know, a
they do
few
this
years
called,
ago,
the
I
surfer dies. They do this
I-
huge ceremony in the water.
my current profession,
Over
we
300
have
surfers,
to
young and
set
old,
up our days in
showed up
advance,
for this,
and I did so.
and
I said I'm
they
going to be out
all
this
took their
day.
boards- no,
So
most
let's
of them
say a
took their boards
Thursday
out
night, I
into
was
the
feeling
ocean,
ill.
And they felt
I said I wasn't going to be there on Friday. I put it into our online system that I'm not going to be there, and it accepted it, and it said, okay, you're not going to be there. Well, for whatever reason,
What you do is you like
the next
splash
day,
the water and then you hold hands.
people are
and clasp
calling
hands, and
me,
they
and
say
I
a
don't even
prayer.
realize it because I'm
Unless you
sick,
get
so I
the
turn my
actions,
phone
but
off, and the
at
next
that
thing I know, my
point,
neighbor
you
is
know,
knocking on my door saying,
One guy,
your
one
place of
organizer
employment
said,
is
"I saw a
looking
sense
for
of unity
you.
We never had in La
Because-
Jolla." And it was a small 9/11.
Come to
and this
find
occurred-
out,
this was
it
on
was
9/11
I
when they did
scheduled
this
my day
ceremony.
off
It didn't go through.
on a
So-
Saturday,
Oh.
It was at
not
that
a
time,
Friday.
wow.
And where I work, no one works there on a Saturday.
Say 9/11. You mean September 11th?
But it was kind of
But
in,
not.
it was,
What year
it
did we
was,
say?
well, I'm glad that if I go missing
So
or
it's
if
the
I'm on the
anniversary,
road
yes,
off
okay.
in a ditch
So it's already
somewhere,
a kind of
my
like-
employer is going to come looking for me.
You said that they contacted law
Somebody said that Emery
Well,
was
because-
a religious guy.
yes,
so
because
he's in church. He
I
always
just
spoke
assumed
about
that they were
Jesus
trying
and
to
the power of
contact
God.
her, and in
His
that
younger
meantime,
brother, Nigel,
no one was
poured
able
Junior's
to
ashes
get a hold of her
into the
because
sea.
It is
And he was laid
2019.
to rest in a
I'm
place
fairly
he loved
certain
best.
she had a cell
His mom
phone.
said that Emery was a lover of the ocean and everything in the ocean. He spent
And she probably
hours
had
in it.
Instagram.
And then within days,
She probably had
she and her son
Instagram,
Nigel
Twitter,
left
Facebook,
Louisiana.
all
They
of the
just had to
above.
stay there. They couldn't
Yeah.
take the pain, or the memories of the house. So they
So,
sold the house and moved back to
anyhow, the police showed up around 6
Okay,
p.m.
so we're gonna
They
pause
discovered
now for a
her.
short sponsor break.
After Kauanui's
They
death,
discovered her body.
people are
She had been
they are
stabbed
outraged.
multiple times.
I imagine so.
Yeah, and the police are doing some investigations, but they're also
So the
receiving a
neighbors,
lot of
come to find
calls
out, the
about
neighbors did say, well, you
the
know,
Bird Rock Bandits.
I did hear some
especially
faint
Seth
screaming
Green,
earlier in the day.
of terrorizing and assaulting. So here are just a few of the accusations, because you mentioned earlier that this
I remember
obviously had gone on. So here are some of the other things that the police found.
I have a son who.
So in 2002, when Cravens was 17, he punched a kid named Thomas Barrows as many as 20 times in the head.
There was faint
This
screaming,
caused
yeah.
jaw damage and hearing loss, and Barrows' mother pressed
Yes.
charges.
They also
but
said
she
they
dropped
heard
them
like
because
moving of
Cravens was sent
furniture,
to Hawaii.
but I guess
Now,
it was so faint and it
he's
was
a
so
Samoan,
like,
American
well, you know.
Samoan, half American Samoan.
Okay.
And he had family living in Hawaii, so his parents were like, this might
So
mellow
it
him
wasn't
out.
really a red
no,
flag.
I don't care.
Yeah, he was in Hawaii for a year. He
So
came back when he was
the police
18,
show up, they
and it
discover her
didn't mellow him
body.
out.
Well, then
probably
the
pissed him
county
off that he had to go live
prosecutor
somewhere else.
comes
So,
to the scene and
not
he
only that,
says,
but you know what? If somebody
know,
did that to my kid, I don't
later
think I would
on
drop
he
charges.
reports,
Absolutely
we
not.
really thought this would be solved
No,
within a
she
few
had
days.
it was about to go through the juvenile
Come to find out,
court
it wouldn't be
system,
solved
and
within a
she's
few
like,
days.
okay,
I mean,
he's
it
out of
wasn't
town,
too
he's not
terribly
gonna fuck with
long.
my
It wasn't
kid anymore.
years. It wasn't several months. It was just
Now, when he returns, there are court documents that allege he was
was
involved
not
in
reported
5
that
more
she did.
meetings when he came back to San Diego. Now, in one instance, he crashed the party of a 16-year-old girl, Lindsay Schneider.
and it was
And
not
when she
reported
asked
that
him
she
to
was
leave,
sexually
I'm sorry,
assaulted
not
because I
Lindsay,
looked for
Libby.
that. Because honestly, as I
When she
researched
asked him to
this, it
leave,
did
he
seem
punched
kind
her.
of what?
So he's not just punching guys.
I hate to say that,
okay?
it seems
He's sucker
odd,
punching girls.
But with
and
the gentleman
it
that
hurt.
came,
He punched her in
that
the
it
chest and
ends up,
face really hard.
they
And
arrested.
She
it
called
does
her
seem
dad.
kind
Her
of-
mom was out of town. Her dad was there.
It's just interesting
And his
to me
dad
that
did
there
not
wasn't
press
that kind of-
charges because
there-
he worked
that
somewhere
aspect
else in
wasn't
California.
involved.
They
So,
were divorced, and he didn't want any kind of retaliation
both
against
the
his
victim,
ex-wife and daughter, so they didn't
Carolyn,
press charges.
and the perpetrator were both
The Bird Rock
employed at
Bandits
the
were
same
also
place.
involved in an assault on New
they
Year's
both
Eve in
worked at
2006. I'm going to get
Yes,
to
they
later.
both worked at Ingenuous, and
then
actually
2
were
weeks
both hired in
before Kauanui's
2016,
death,
so
the
they'd
Bird
been
Rock
there
Bandits
for
were
at
banned
least
from
3
the
years.
Shack Bar and Grill. This is where they used to go that had a
No,
lax ID
I did
policy.
see that they weren't hired at
This
the
was a
exact
popular
same
night
time.
spot.
One was
They
hired
would,
in like
they were
February, and
banned
one was
for causing
hired in
trouble
say, let's say
and
August.
attacking and beating a patron bloody as he
One
walked
was a
out to his
project
car.
manager, and
remember when I
Kenneth
told you that
Sale,
Bowser
who is the
made
perpetrator,
Kauanui
the alleged
leave first?
perpetrator
That's because
at
it
this
had already
time,
been known
was in,
that
he was the
Cravens
staff
and his
accountant.
crew would wait in
she
the
was
parking
a
lot
project manager.
for whoever they
Yes.
started trouble with in the bar.
Two
Why
different
would they have been
departments.
allowed to be there if they knew that
Not to take away
these
from
were the
her.
things that they did?
Yes,
They
no.
should have been banned.
Well,
to
she was
begin
a
with. To
double
me, that's
major
like
at
negligence.
Yes.
when she graduated
Well,
from college.
the
She
mom
was
does
an
end up trying to
international
sue the
affairs
bar. She does
major,
file a suit
in
against the
addition
bar.
to anthropology
I
and
never found out
sociology.
the
So that has
conclusion
to,
that.
to do with people.
Right.
Now,
Right.
before
But
he
it-
left for that
you know, that
night,
does
so
come
I'm sorry,
A
the
little
next
later.
day,
All right. So the neighbors came forward stating
after
that they
the
had
fight at the bar,
that
Shack
they had
and Grill,
actually okay. So
Cravens posted on his MySpace that authorities,
it's kind of all over the place here. So
that
some of the
Bird Rock
neighbors,
Bandits May
a
10th,
couple of months later,
2007 at
after
3:32
they've
p.m.
arrested someone,
I
they
can't
say,
go to the
"Well,
shack
we've
for a
seen
while
that
because I
guy
murdered someone.
hanging
Ha, ha,
out
ha.
in our
No
communal
biggie, call me
laundry
up and let's
mat.
get crunk."
He's been
What a
here."
jackass.
So he's saying the
because
Bird
he was
Rock
stalking
Bandits.
her.
He's like bragging about this. So homicide
She had no
detectives
idea that she had a
use
stalker.
this as evidence
So
to
this
add
whole
a slew
time
of
he's
assault,
stalking her. She doesn't
battery,
know.
intimidation, and gang enhancement charges
had
to
it-
the murder counts.
Yep, that's
He
what you get for
went
naming
from,
yourself, you
like,
dum-dum.
Okay,
looking
now
at
in
her
California,
secretly to just
being a part of
murder her.
gang is
There was
serious
no- that
business.
scary
That's a
stuff.
serious offense because of the the gang violence
No,
that was going on.
there's no
Well, now, I mean,
documentation.
even
There's
here,
no
I went
record.
to high
There's
school
no
with some
reporting.
high
Nothing.
school
That
guys
I mean,
who-
it went
they had this
from
group of friends and they called themselves.
she
they
left
had
work
a name
one
for
day,
themselves.
just she was
And
murdered,
because they had a name for
to
themselves, and there was like
this dude did
15
it,
of them.
or this is who we think
If
did
they
it.
were seen together, the cops would say, "This is
so
gang
following her
activity,
death,
and you need to
this
get
gentleman
out of here." I think
became
some of them
his
even had
demeanor
been arrested
changed, his
on,
whole attitude, everything
because
about
they were
him.
doing the same bullshit.
So-
So they were
Right.
attacking people with
He-
baseball
he was
bats
just a
and
different
just.
guy.
But people
generally
really
up to
didn't
no good.
realize wasn't until
Right.
the police came and
Now,
started questioning it.
criminal
So the
street
police
gang
showed up
violence
at
is taken
Engine and they started
seriously
questioning the police
everywhere,
because
but in
within a few
California, it was
days they
due to
didn't
Bloods
have
and
an
Crips
answer.
in the
It
80s,
was
the
the
violence
violence. They had
in the 80s,
absolutely no
right?
idea who could have murdered this
And
girl.
of course, they're going to go to her workplace. employees.
Yes,
So with
I have a book.
because everybody
Okay,
loved
yeah,
her.
Tukey was-
No one
Yeah.
had any reason to want to murder her. So they start questioning
now, people
everyone,
did not
which
believe
makes
the
me think
burden.
that
They
this place
thought it was
probably
ludicrous that these guys were
wasn't.
considered a gang.
You know, it
But,
probably didn't have 1,000 employees.
as
But I've
the
actually worked at a
assistant
place where
district attorney
someone
said,
was
she
kind of
disagreed.
connected
She said that a
to
gang
murder,
is essentially an organization that
So-
terrorizes a community.
and they did
She
come
said
in
that
during
the
like the
Bird
middle
Rock
of shift and
Bandits were
start
a group
questioning
of 3 or
people.
more
They were like,
people
"Yeah,
that
they
have a
get-
common
yeah."
symbol. They have a pattern of
I wasn't
criminal
well,
and
well,
this was a group of 3 or more.
I actually knew the person.
They
and-
wore
oh,
colors.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
the defense attorney
I
said,
knew someone
yeah,
who was
they wore,
murdered.
like,
I knew.
like a
his
high school
ex-wife.
T-shirt or something.
But
Now,
anyway,
with
where
that
I
said,
worked,
though, I knew
there were
some
people
other
who like
people
hung
who
out
went
with them
to
after
a
work, and they
high
would actually
school
come in and they would
across
question
town,
you.
and they
Like
used
a
to
home
always
murder
dress
that
up
maybe
in
our
dress
Patreon
shirts and
could
ties
do
when they would go
whatever
beat up
Yes,
Oh.
yes, exactly. It
Back
is.
to that.
Yes, because
Spin on the whole thing.
I guess,
Yes.
but I mean, but
Yeah.
it's saying
because
so
I
they
didn't
could
come
have
forward
classified
and
that
say,
if they
"Well, I
get-
know," da,
they
da,
have
da,
an
da, da, but that
attire.
person's in
Yes.
jail, rotten in jail. So anyway, it doesn't
Now,
matter.
there was
I mean,
also
it does
graffiti.
matter. It does matter.
intimidation,
Yes.
So a gang affiliation
Yes, yes,
actually
yes, yes,
adds 10
All
more
right,
years
so
to each
following her
charge.
Yeah,
death,
it's serious.
Sale
Their
became
families and friends said
completely just his demeanor changed. His
prosecutors
coworkers became
could
suspicious
introduce
of
the earlier
him
cases of
because
alleged
this
violence.
Kenneth
So
Sale.
now they can
See,
bring in
Kenneth
things
Sale
that
was a
happened,
husband, a
So
father.
Sale, you say Sale, and I would say
Saul.
Saul.
that they were
Saul.
they fit the
S-A-A-L.
legal definition of a
I
gang.
don't
Would
know
that
how
be
it's
mitigating
pronounced. Who
factor?
gives a shit? But I would say Saul.
I have no idea.
It is.
Sale. Just,
It's probably Saul. S-A-A-L.
you know what?
So
Yeah.
longtime
He-
locals
he
laugh
doesn't even
off the
matter
idea
for
of
us
the
to
Bird Rock
pronounce his
Bandits
name
as a gang. So
correctly,
they
but
dismiss
I
it
just want to
as
make that clear that it is
they dismiss it as
S-A-A-L.
they're just
Yes.
privileged bullies.
All right, so Kenneth
La
Sale,
Jolla Do Nothing
Saul.
Club is one surfboard
Kenneth
shaper
Saul.
said.
Whoever.
Now their family and
Just say
friends
whoever.
said that the gangster tag is
So,
wrong for a number of
following
reasons.
her death, he became
they
really
accused-
suspicious
they
at
were
work, and his
describing
coworkers
these
didn't
boys
really start
as
to think
being
about it until they
rough, but
started.
other people said, no, they're gentle and caring, whatever.
Kind of
That's what they always say when someone goes
because
off
they
and does
really
something like
didn't
insane. They're
start
like,
to
"Oh, we would have
question
never
him
expected it
until
from this
the
person."
police
Well, that's
came
what
in and
that's
started
what they always
questioning
say.
this.
There was also
They're like, well, do you know
outrage,
anyone
too,
who did
because,
this? Do you know? Because
if-
they
if
know how to
were
ask the
black
right
and
questions, and they were like,
lived
well,
in
you
a different area,
know,
wouldn't be this argument.
Kenneth
So,
in
a
accounting
big issue.
has asked
The
a couple
guy-
people.
One guy
Can I get
said-
arrested
I
for
think it was an
circumstantial
African-American,
evidence?
One guy said, "Yeah, they're not a gang. They're just
Have you not
gangsta
ever
chic."
listened to a podcast? Have you not
They're
ever
just a-
watched
a
CSI
group of
or
drunken
Law and
bullies
Order? I
who
mean,
didn't really serve. Is what
hello?
another guy
Yes.
said. So you know what?
You can
Who
get
knows? I don't know if
arrested
they
for
were jealous.
circumstantial evidence.
And,
The judge
and
had to
that's a
determine
great
whether
thing
or
because
not it was
I just
gang
want to read
violence.
this
And
description
he said,
on
no, they're not
Google
gang.
about this
It's not a
Engine
gang.
Group US.
In the typical sense, when
Engine
you
is
think
Right.
gang,
Right. Of creator,
So
wonderkind,
that charge wasn't there, but they were still
Uber nerds,
allowed to bring in
business
those
consultants,
previous
cultural mavens,
previous-
and channel specialists
stereotyping
working together to
gangs?
help our clients.
is there really or
So
a certain
it sounds like
race of
yeah,
people?
a bunch of
I think that was an
saying that
argument,
super smart
but they did
people
not
that
fit.
might
The
be
only
very
person who really
young
had any kind of
and
like gang tags or anything like that was Seth
inexperienced, which
Craven.
sounds like your Kenneth
It wasn't
Saul
something that the
could
other
possibly
boys
be, like,
had
a
out
very
there.
young
You know,
serial
he is the
killer.
one that was trying to make
He
it
could
into
be.
this
trying to
Yes.
make it something. Look at us.
With
and
that
we're
said,
badasses.
Right.
Okay,
Now,
gotcha.
The
he was
police
Seth
received.
Craven
Okay,
was
so let me
called
back
the
up a little
alpha
bit.
male
All
of this
right, so they
group
didn't know
of
what the hell they
people.
were
So
doing. They didn't know who they
pretty
were
much what
interviewing.
he
They
said,
didn't know what was
everybody
going
else
on.
did.
So
believed
they
them.
start
Yeah.
interviewing the
He was
coworkers.
the
The
second
coworkers,
youngest of 14
through the
kids.
interviews, they start to reveal
He, and
that
his family
possibly
lived
this
in
guy
Mount
in
Soledad,
accounting
which is
might
an
be
exclusive
a little off.
hilltop area
He
in
started
La
acting
Jolla.
weird. He started
He was
asking
getting
crazy
suspended from middle
questions,
school for
which
fighting
because someone was
while his
murdered,
siblings were building
people
their
are gonna
future. So,
remember.
you know, everybody
You know, it's not like he's like,
beforehand,
"Hey, I'm
all
really into
siblings
true
were
crime. Are you?
successful.
Did you know that da 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 da?"
His
Because you know
sister
now
Sarah
that
says that her parents
Right,
never made
yeah.
excuses for him.
it wasn't like
They
that
just
at
said that
all.
ultimately the
He
child's
just
gonna
all of
do
a
what
sudden
he's
one
gonna
day
do.
was
So
asking
that
this
Sounds like an
question.
excuse.
Well,
yeah, I'm not sure how much discipline he
they
got.
started
Let's just sit
for
in the
whatever
confinement.
reason. They had
Or somebody would just
DNA
say,
from under her
Yeah, me too.
her fingernails.
Now,
With that-
some people, let's see where I am.
Other employees said, "Well, Kenneth did
Some people
have
came
some
out and said,
scratches
you know, he's
on his knuckles."
Sweet, he's
He
just
started
mixed
acting
up.
weird.
Some
He
people spoke
had
up for
some
Eric's
scratches
house.
on his
Like, for
knuckles,
example, the mother of
which
his
led
girlfriend
them
said that if he
to
has any fault, it's that he's
DNA.
too good of a person. But
They had DNA on her
prosecutors were
fingernails.
unmoved. Even Hank Hendricks.
All right, so
who
here's the deal.
was
Allegedly,
the kid that was the backup
he had been
quarterback
waiting
for
for Carolyn at
was
her apartment.
arrested.
So
Even
Kenneth
though he didn't hit Kauanui,
was waiting
He didn't
for
do anything to
Carolyn
stop it.
at her
He did-
apartment,
and he
and he
pulled
bum
the
rushed her
girlfriend off
as
when
she
he was
went
trying
in
to
to eat
stop
her
it.
lunch.
So
She
he
went home
also
for
was
her day.
charged with,
The neighbor said, we saw her
with restraining her and
consistently
leaving
at the same
scene,
time
and he was arrested
every day
with the same
at her
charges as
apartment.
the others, murder.
So she was a creature of
Now,
habit.
His
no
attorney
one
says that
ever
the
saw
day after
this. Like,
Kauanui
they saw him
died,
in the
Hendricks
area hanging out
voluntarily
with
talked to the
communal
police and the
laundry.
district attorney investigators.
They never
And his lawyers
saw
said that Hendricks
him
was assured that he wouldn't be arrested, so
on
that's
that
why
day.
he went back to school. He was
Not
an honor
exactly.
student in high school. He
So,
received an athletic scholarship.
A couple months
to the
later, when he
University
was
of New
arrested
Hampshire.
and his
He was a
face
junior
was
with
put out to
business
the public,
major.
they said,
He was a football team
shit,
reserve
that's the guy we
quarterback.
saw hanging out at
He
the communal
was
laundry.
now
Yes,
with
and
because of this
please,
incident, he
audience,
was
go look
suspended
at
from
this
college and
guy's
he was kicked
picture.
off the
I think
team.
Kenneth
Oh,
saw.
boo-hoo.
Yeah.
He's a very
so
soft,
his
doughy
arrest-
boy
Ruined your own life.
Yeah,
who-
yeah.
Yeah, he's no Gerard
right.
Butler.
And
All right,
his
so
arrest
following
raised questions
Carolyn's
about the gangster
death,
charges.
Saul's
Like, this
whole
is
demeanor
clearly not a
changed,
gangster.
according to his coworkers.
His supporters say
He
he was
supposedly
potentially
even
valuable
asked some
witness, and
coworkers
that's
if he
why
could be arrested
they
for
put this
circumstantial evidence.
charge
Just
on
out of the
him
blue,
for
he's like,
credibility
"Ooh,
purposes.
could I be?
He
Can
had
somebody get
letters
arrested
were
for
flooding
circumstantial
in
evidence?
Yeah.
into the court from family members,
According
friends,
to the
business
coworkers,
executives,
that's kind of
teachers,
how.
who were saying
Hey,
that
do you
he's
think that someone
only
could
guilty of
be
picking
da da
bad
da da?
friends.
And I bet
Listen
he's
to a
hung out with
podcast,
totally
watch
different type of
CSI,
crowd of
watch
people
Law and
back
Order.
at college.
Where have you been?
If somebody at
So,
my work said, do you think
Doug Flutie, who's a former
could happen,
quarterback for the San
there
Diego
was an incident at work? I think I would be suspicious.
kind of took this kid
Yes,
as a
especially
mentor.
after
if
a
a
coworker.
coworker was
from
murdered
high
over
school,
lunch
and he's like,
break,
"There's
and
no
somebody
way.
said,
This is like-
circumstantial
this is one of the most
evidence,
upright
could you
young
make
men
that? I
I've
think
ever
I
met."
would suspect that person.
Yes, I definitely
Clearly
would.
not.
Yeah.
So,
he said that
all of
Hank
this
has
kinda
always
came
been
to
a
a
model
head
citizen.
when
He
the
has no
detectives
history or
started
reputation for
interviewing
violence. He has
people
never been
at
affiliated with any gang of any
Engine
kind. And
US.
has no criminal record.
So they
Hank
were
Hendricks is an
questioning
exemplary
everyone,
young
and
man
that's
who is
when
someone I
things
would be
kind
proud
of
to have
like.
as a son.
I don't think that anyone really
Now,
put it all together.
a spokesman for the district
I
attorney
think anyone put
said
it all
that
together.
Hendricks and the
And
others
then
were
once
charged
the
because
detectives,
prosecutors
because they know how to ask
believe that they can
questions,
prove
they ask the right
guilt
questions.
beyond a reasonable doubt.
Which
And he
you know,
says
they ask
that,
leading questions, which lead
I mean, he
people
still didn't do
to
anything
answer
to
a certain
stop
way,
this from
or
happening.
Well, not
they
only
feel
that,
like they
but
need
there's
to
a
open up
pattern that's been
because
established here.
they loved
Like
her.
I said, on New
they
Year's
wanted to
Eve,
find a murder,
all
and they were like,
five
well, you know,
men
this
accused
jackass
in
over in
Kauanui's
accounting
death, Craven's house, Asuno
had
Yankee,
scratches
and
on his
Hendricks
hand. He started acting
were among a group
weird.
that tried
He
to
was
crash a party
asking
at 1
people
a.m.
if he could be arrested for.
They were stopped
They
at the
were,
door, and
like,
Cravens and Hendricks
all
allegedly
these little
started
things that
swinging.
most
One man
people
told
wouldn't
police
see as
that,
an issue.
that Hendricks
Like,
opened a gash in his head that
we
needed
might
stitches,
not see
and
it
another
with
recalled being
scratches on the knuckle,
sucker
but
punched. Then
Yeah,
falling to the
I don't
ground
know that
and
I
was
would
kicked
notice
in the
that.
head.
If we were asked, like,
And standing
like,
over him was
questions,
Cravens,
and
who
someone
allegedly
might
warned,
say,
"I'm going to kill you."
Well, you know what?
Jesus
This
Christ.
jackass
So-
in accounting has.
And so
Yeah.
even Hendricks was
So
involved in that.
that led them to asking for DNA.
The
So,
intruders bolted before police
clearly he
arrived,
thought he was
and
okay
Hendricks
enough to
said,
give
"Well,
the
I didn't
DNA
want to
because they
explain
couldn't
why I had blood on
exclude
my
him.
hands." That's why he left.
So
I
they
just wanna
took-
say
they
this is a
questioned
big,
him.
Huge issue. The guys were charged with murder.
Because of his
It turned
answers
out that
and some other
Eric
things,
House, Matthew
it led
Yankee,
to
Orlando
DNA, and they
Snow,
couldn't
and Hank
exclude
Hendricks
him.
pled guilty
So,
to lower charge of involuntary
his
manslaughter.
DNA, I mean his
I'm
DNA,
sorry,
his demeanor
Hank Hendricks
changed.
did not, but the other three: Eric House, Matthew Yankee.
No, that's what I'm
Orlando
saying. They
Snow
didn't
pleaded
exclude
guilty
him.
to involuntary
They
manslaughter.
couldn't say
and they served jail time.
definitively,
Okay.
this is
Hank
your
Hendricks pled guilty to
DNA,
accessory
but they couldn't
after the
say,
fact.
this
and
isn't
he
your
had
DNA.
he got
They
2 years
couldn't
of
say,
probation.
this
Seth
isn't your
Cravens
DNA.
did not
Correct.
plead guilty. He
Correct.
wanted to take it to trial.
But they couldn't say,
And
this
he
for
ended
sure
up,
isn't your
they ended up finding him
Correct.
guilty.
what they couldn't say is,
And he got
what they
20
really
years to
couldn't
life.
say is, this is your DNA.
Takes it
Yes,
to
that's what I'm
court
saying.
Later.
Yes,
And
they could
it
not
goes up
do any of
to
that. But
the district
But
court,
they couldn't exclude him,
California,
but they couldn't say
the next
it's
court
yours
up,
100%.
and they said that
Yeah.
it
It
should
might
not have
be yours
been
99%,
murder,
but we
second-degree
can't
murder.
say
It should have
it's
been
not
like
yours.
voluntary
yes.
manslaughter.
But what they could say,
So it's
is
They
that
weren't trying to kill him.
Right.
Google Earth
there's
trying not to
because
kill him.
it was just
Says
a
you were at
fight.
her
They said it was
apartment
just a
complex.
fight. The fact that the kid died on buses
Google
So
Earth
it got
says
dropped to
your ass
If I
was her
was
car
drinking
at
and
her
driving, my
apartment
intent
complex
is
just a
to
couple of days before.
Drive head
Right, I
on to
think
someone
that's
and kill
freaking
someone, but
scary
it
as
happens
shit.
and go.
Yes.
Google Earth.
So the charge was
Answer
reversed
questions
to
like that.
to
They
Yeah.
are watching us.
Yes.
However,
don't tell
the
some
prosecutor
people.
said hell no. So they took it to the California Supreme Supreme Court who reversed that
Yes.
again and said,
So,
yes, it was intentional.
They were
There's a
later to
pattern.
obtain
He
images
has done
from
this
Google
since middle
Earth that
school.
showed Sal
It was intentional
was
whether or not
indeed
he
in
hit
Carolyn
with his
at
left
Carolyn's
hand instead of
apartment in the
the
days
dominant right
before that
hand.
she was killed. So in the
He's
days
had a
before she
pattern
was
of
killed.
sucker punching people.
So not just that day.
So
No.
he is not eligible
Yes,
for
and
parole until
upon questioning,
2026.
her
Now,
neighbor
on
said that
another
they had
note,
seen that guy.
the
So once they
three,
arrested
Eric
him,
House, Matthew
they
Yankee,
saw
and
his
Orlando
image, his
Senna.
picture, and they
They
said, that guy, we
pled
saw
guilty,
him
they
hanging out at
served
the
their
communal
time,
laundry.
and they did have conditions of
We
their
saw
release.
Saul.
So they weren't allowed to hang out together. They weren't supposed to go to bars.
We saw
They weren't
him.
supposed to smoke pot. Well, guess what? They did. They hung out together. They
We
smoked
saw
pot,
him
they went
hanging
to
out at
bars.
the communal laundry.
And so they were.
What happened then?
Well,
they were jailed again for violation of probation. They served a little bit more time.
So,
and then Eric House,
the neighbors saw him in the weeks prior. So the neighbors saw him in the weeks prior. Google Earth.
So that was violation of probation. Yes.
Earth saw him in the days
I'm not sure where these guys
prior.
are now,
and get this. As he was driving by, he happened to drive by a police officer who had a dash cam on the day
who had the potential
of the murder.
Change in the world died.
And you don't say. The dash cam shows a Honda Accord that meets the description of his Honda.
Driving on
the girlfriend?
Driving on the road. Driving in her neighborhood. All right, so when Kenneth was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, it was 2 months after the actual murder. Because they did the questioning, and then I guess they took DNA. They asked people, do you mind giving your DNA? And he really thought that he was going to get caught. So
reviewing our podcast
they took his DNA,
is
the type of
essential to our
DNA that was
success.
found
So
on her
guys,
fingertip,
please help
on
us-
her fingernails. They
push us up the
couldn't
charts.
exclude him.
If you can, take a moment to, on your favorite platform, give us a 5-star rating. And while you're
Hey
there,
guys,
leave a comment
Cindy here.
letting us know which
Mercedes and I
murder
are
intrigues
super
you.
excited to be
For
sponsoring
more
a new
information and links
podcast
to our
on
Facebook,
Spotify,
Instagram, and Twitter
Serial
pages,
Killing.
Visit our
A
website
podcast
at
explores the motives
itwasn'tmetruecrime.com.
behind serial killers and murderers.
Thank you.
Each episode
We are
embarks
so
on their
grateful
early
to spend our
beginnings,
Friday nights
family
together
history,
to
and
share
life
our murderous
experiences
stories.
that may have
Thank
driven
you
them
again
to
for
committing their
listening and
heinous
supporting
crimes.
us. We
Was it
love
their
you,
childhood
and we
environment?
again would like to thank
Perhaps
our
it was
very
a genetic
first Patreon
defect
supporter,
or a
Shannon
propensity
Kelly.
for violence.
She is the extra.
Through education
You too can
and a
become one
lifetime
our
of
beloved
research,
Patreon
this
supporters.
podcast shares
If
these
you'd
ideas
like to support us
so that
a little
perhaps
further,
we can
please
all have a
visit
better understanding of what exactly makes a murderer.
If you like what you heard,
Listen
especially if you're an
to
Apple
Serial
listener,
Killing,
please give us
a
a 5-star
podcast on
rating
Spotify,
and leave a
or
comment about
whenever
your
you
favorite
listen
murder.
to your favorite
Thanks,
podcast.
guys. And remember,
And don't forget to
it
listen
wasn't
to
me.
It Wasn't Me, a true crime podcast on your favorite platform. See ya.
So can we just go back to that DNA for a second, because I don't think we've discussed it. He had Y-S. She had Y-STR DNA under her nails.
Yes.
And just from very basic Google research, that's just that just excludes gender. So it can tell whether it's male DNA or
Yes.
not.
Yeah.
But it doesn't like pinpoint who specifically it is.
Correct.
But it wasn't sexual assault, correct?
No.
So there's no seminal fluid DNA.
Nope. There's no mention
It's
of that
just,
whatsoever.
Skin scratching.
Yep. There's no charges. So he didn't sexually assault her. He just kidnapped her. He just held her captive. He just murdered
all the
her.
awful stuff. He didn't rape her that we know of.
No. All right. So he was charged with first-degree murder. In addition to burglary in the second degree, endangering an injured victim, hindering one's own apprehension, meaning like evading police, burglary and possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose, which that just seems like something they're tacking on. So
Right, because what weapon did he have for an unlawful purpose?
whatever he stabbed her with. So
Well, what if it was like on her kitchen counter?
it doesn't matter. He grabbed it. He used it as a weapon. That's a weapon.
Okay.
All right. So the indictment also includes charges of stalking and tampering of evidence, both fourth-degree crimes. So he's got first-degree murder. Everything else is third-degree, except for fourth-degree stalking and fourth-degree tampering with evidence because he tried to clean up.
Do you know, this has nothing to do with like this case at all, but how can stalking be a fourth degree? God,
I don't know.
Shouldn't it be at least a second degree offense? Just in your own opinion.
I don't know. I think that it should be one of the. I mean, because
can
if
it
you,
just
I
be
think it should be
fourth
first
degree?
degree, because if you're stalking someone, you are premeditatingly.
Did she know that she was being stalked?
No.
Because have we addressed that at all?
Nope.
She had no idea, right?
Nope. There is no communication, no text messages or anything between.
So maybe
her.
that's why it's fourth degree. Was that maybe they, through their investigation, they figured out that he was stalking her, but she didn't realize it.
But it doesn't matter if she realized it. When someone murders you, you
But
don't
if
know
you
that they're
are-
murdering
if you know you're being stalked and you know who's stalking you and you turn it in, that would be like, this is first degree.
But first degree murder, just because, okay, let's say that I decide I'm going to murder you. You don't know that, but I know that, and I've pre-planned it in my head. I'm staking you out, meaning I've been seen on camera a couple of times before I murder you. I've been seen staking at your house. I'm at your apartment. That's first degree. That's premeditated. That is pre-planned.
Right. But stalking is a different thing. Like, stalking would be...
I think that, you're stalking somebody. If you're at their apartment complex when they don't know that you're watching them, that's premeditated.
My question is the degree whether the stalked person knows that they're being stalked?
It doesn't matter.
Like,
you don't know you're going to be murdered.
With you. My question is, like, I agree with you 100%. And my question is what makes it fourth degree instead of first degree?
I have no idea.
Like, would first degree be the person knowing they're stalked and being threatened by that?
You know what? There might not even be a first degree stalking. Because stalking
what
laws...
fuck is fourth degree? I don't get it.
Stalking laws didn't even come... They weren't even a thing until the 80s, late 80s.
Well, I mean, before I totally agree with you, I'd have to do research, but I do remember the Mork and Mindy thing.
Yes, so do I. Like actually, it was my sister Sam. It was my sister Sam.
But she was on Mork and Mindy, right?
It was... Well, no. She was... Okay.
Okay.
So, my sister Sam, the actress from my sister Sam was... It was a spinoff of Mork and Mindy. Okay. She was the sister of Mindy. And so, yes, but that was the early 80s, and that's one of the first times that they've ever that's when the anti-stalking laws came about, was because that person went up to her door. She had complained, and that person went up to her door, knocked on the door.
That would be first-degree stalking. Like, that person knows, what this person is freaking out, like, they're killing my cat, leaving on the doorstep.
Yeah.
Fourth-degree stalking might be just, like, maybe the person doesn't realize they're being stalked.
I just I don't think of it from that aspect, because I might not know my husband's going to murder me, but he might have been planning it for 4 months. That's first degree murder.
First degree murder is different from stalking. But
should it be?
Let's not digress.
Yes. But should it be? Okay.
No. Well, they're two different charges. So
but premeditated stalking, I'm going to go.
If you don't know you're being stalked and the police find out you're being stalked before you do, that might be a fourth degree stalking. Here we are.
I don't
digressing.
know.
We don't know. We're
it should be all. It should just be like bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad. All right. So Saul was arrested after the lab results. Couldn't exclude him as a match for the YSTR DNA, Y-star, I don't know. They couldn't exclude him. They found, based on what they found underneath her fingernails. Also, there were some other things. It wasn't just the DNA that they couldn't exclude him. I mean, because that's kind of, we couldn't exclude you. Well, they couldn't probably exclude 100 other males also. But there were some other things that kind of go along with it. This kind of goes to the...
circumstantial evidence.
Thank you. Correct. Circumstantial evidence. Okay, so... when the police came to start questioning everyone, he became under suspicion after the interviews, because not only did he say those suspicious things to his coworkers, like, can I be arrested, yada, yada, yada. There was also cell phone tower data and suspicious text and alleged comments made to other coworkers that are just a few reasons that a judge said, your ass is staying in jail. The prosecutor cited that a text that Sale sent to his wife, to the woman he married, his wife, on June 17th. Now, Carolyn was murdered on June 10th.
And Carolyn was a vibrant young 26-year-old girl who was not married.
Correct.
She had
everything
a double major degree, a great job, living right in Princeton, New Jersey, like at the
she had everything going for her.
Time of her life.
Yes. So on June 10th,
he was married
and had a kid.
And had an 11-month-old child.
Yeah. So on June 17th, he sent a text to his wife saying, I'm kind of freaking out. Someone came in our office earlier talking about a friend who spent a year and a half fighting a murder conviction that they didn't commit because the cops were desperate to pin it on someone. So, all right. So in addition to the text message to his wife, the DNA, the suspicious comments to his coworkers, Sal obviously was infatuated with Carolyn. When he was driving around that day, when he was supposedly getting his car fixed, but he wasn't. So he passed by a police officer. The police officer had dash cam. And that dash cam actually shot footage of a Honda Accord traveling in Plainsboro, about 6 miles from the company office where they worked, while he was supposed to be at the shop.
So, just devil's advocate, how many Honda Accords are out there?
I don't know how many Honda Accords are that color.
Continue.
So that's just what it says. All right. So after his arrest, the prosecutors also received an anonymous voicemail from someone. This anonymous voicemail said that they were a previous acquaintance of Sal's, and that they revealed that 11 years ago, he had confessed to them that he was planning a rape and murder of his current crush. So 11 years ago, he supposedly said, I'm going to rape and murder this person.
So now we're talking psycho fucking bullshit. Like, this dude is thinking about...
Yeah, but if someone I knew 11 years ago said, I'm thinking about raping and murder.
He's already, talks about, if fantasizing a murder and rape of someone, and he's implicated in something 11 years later. Would you consider that a freaky situation?
I find it suspicious.
I would think, oh my God, that's fucking...
I mean, maybe the person thought, maybe he said something during a drunken rage or, whatever.
Sorry, I would consider that fucking freaky.
Oh, I would too, but maybe they didn't take it seriously, and then 11 years later, he comes up in this investigation, and they're like, he said this.
I mean, if you reported everything something weird, if you call the police after everything...
That someone said
weird, said something weirdly, you would...
We'd be busy.
The cops would be busy.
Yes.
Oh yeah, she's a fucking crazy person.
Yeah. So during police interviews at the work, at his workplace and with Sal, he said that he was alone during that time that Carolyn was murdered. He was at this park hanging out while his car was being repaired. As I said earlier in the beginning, his car repair story turned out to be kind of bullshit, and because he reported to his supervisor, that he couldn't make their meeting because his car was being worked on, but supposedly he was just embarrassed that he was working on his own vehicle.
Okay, so hold up. He was late for a meeting with the supervisor.
Yes.
He called a supervisor and said, I'm sorry, I'm going to be late because of car trouble.
Yes.
On the same day that this person did not come back from work.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right. Even his father took the stand and said that he had been experiencing power steering issues, which to me is complete bullshit, because you wouldn't... you might take your car to the shop to be fixed on a Saturday, but you're not gonna... I'm gonna miss a meeting with my boss because my power steering went out. No, I don't think so. It's 2019. You Uber your ass back to work. So that's why, backtrack to why he had cuts on his hand, is he was saying he was working on his own vehicle, and that had to do with the power steering, and that is, it's complete bullshit.
Clever.
It's a reach. So his attorney also addressed the anonymous caller, stating that it was a scorned lover from the past feeling burned and vindictive. So, yeah. No. No, that's not at all what it was. His attorney also said that either Kenneth was a complete criminal mastermind or they had the wrong person. He couldn't be excluded because of his DNA, which they are running more tests, and that takes longer than what CSI lets you on to. But here's some facts about Kenneth that we should know. One, we already talked about how he was linked through DNA and that his demeanor changed. He had all this suspicious behavior. Two, he and his wife were high school sweethearts. They'd been married since 2017, and he had a baby, an 11th month old, and he actually had no criminal record. It's not as if he was a habitual offender. who the hell knows what happened here. Number 3, he worked at the engine group since 2016. I covered that. The company did, however, release a statement after Carolyn's murder. The company said that this is their statement. Engine is mourning over this shocking, senseless tragedy. Carolyn was deeply cared for by her colleagues, and we extend our heartfelt thoughts and prayers to her family and friends. However, they did not issue a statement after his arrest concerning this employee who was worked there just as long as she had. They were backing her, saying, we are distraught, we are praying for her friends and family, but they got nothing for him.
Because they don't know how to respond yet.
No.
So we also want to make sure that we let our listeners know that this is still up in the air. We don't know the outcome.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. So
everything's alleged
at
this point.
It is.
And we don't know the outcome. What we know is the evidence that we have provided.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we also, I have 2 more points. So number 4, Carolyn was a New Jersey native, which we already covered that, who overcame a birth defect. She actually had a brain tumor when she was a child. And in her obituary, it says, please make donations to the Children's Brain Tumor Project in the name of the doctor who helped save her life.
Oh.
So she overcame
do we
this.
know his name?
Yes, we actually do. Per her obituary, the doctor that helped save her life was Wheel Cornell.
Dr. Wheel Cornell. So
yeah.
If you are into brain tumors, please support that.
Yes. And number 5, Sale is being held in the Middlesex County Jail. Currently, he is not getting out. He actually was offered a plea deal of 30 years, and if he does not accept that plea deal, he may face additional charges. So, and that pretty much, that's all we got, because it doesn't say. I'm assuming that he didn't accept that plea deal because he was supposed to go to court last month in October, at the end of October, but there has not been any updated information. All right, listen, guys, we really need you to subscribe if you'd like our show, or if you know that we have great potential. Please subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating with a nice comment, because we're sensitive. For more information and links to our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages, visit our website at itwasn'tmetruecrime.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, and please give us a 5-star rating. While you are there, leave us a comment telling us which murder intrigues you. We're so very grateful to spend our Friday nights together to share our murderous stories. Thank you very much for listening to us and supporting us. We love you. And we would again like to thank our very first Patreon supporter, Shannon Kelly.
Thanks, Sissa.
She is the extra. You, too, can become one of our beloved Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support us even further, please visit patreon.com/itwasn'tmepod. If you'd like what you heard, especially if you're an Apple listener, please give us a 5-star rating and leave us a comment about your favorite murder. Thanks, guys, and remember,
it wasn't me.